Welcome back to our channel, Bible for Kids. Today, we'll continue our wonderful journey through the Old Testament. And this time, we'll learn one of the most amazing and powerful stories in the Bible. The story of Joseph interpreting dreams. Get ready, because this story shows how God can turn pain into purpose, and how faith and patience can change a person's entire life. After being sold by his brothers, Joseph was taken far from home to the land of Egypt, where he was bought by a man named Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Even as a servant, Joseph worked with all his heart. He was honest, kind, and faithful. He did everything with excellence. And soon Potiphar noticed something special about him. Everything Joseph did seemed to prosper, because God was with him. Potiphar trusted him so much that he made Joseph the overseer of his entire household. For a while, life seemed to go well for Joseph. But one day, something very unfair happened. Potiphar's wife lied about him, and even though Joseph was innocent, he was thrown into prison. Even in prison, God never left Joseph's side. The prison warden saw that Joseph was a man of wisdom and peace. Soon, Joseph was placed in charge of helping to care for the other prisoners. Joseph didn't complain. He didn't lose faith. He trusted that God still had a plan, even if he couldn't see it yet. One day, 2 new prisoners were brought in, Pharaoh's cupbearer and Pharaoh's baker. They had both upset the king and were waiting for their punishment. One morning, Joseph noticed they looked worried. He asked why, and they said, "We both had strange dreams last night, but no one can tell us what they mean." Joseph smiled kindly and said, "Interpretations belong to God. Tell me your dreams." The cupbearer went first. "In my dream, I saw a vine with 3 branches. The branches budded and blossomed, and soon there were ripe grapes. I took Pharaoh's cup, squeezed the grapes into it, and placed it in his hand." Joseph prayed silently, and then said, "The 3 branches mean 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh will restore you to your position as his cupbearer." The man was overjoyed. Joseph added softly, "When that happens, please remember me and tell Pharaoh about me, so I can be set free. I was taken from my home unjustly." Then the baker shared his dream. "In my dream, I had 3 baskets of bread on my head, filled with food for Pharaoh. But birds came and ate the bread from the baskets." Joseph looked at him with sadness and said, "The 3 baskets also mean 3 days. But in 3 days, Pharaoh will punish you. You will not live." 3 days later, everything happened exactly as Joseph had said. The cupbearer was restored, and the baker was executed. But the cupbearer forgot about Joseph. Even so, Joseph didn't lose hope. He continued to trust in God's perfect timing. 2 full years passed. Joseph remained in prison. But God was preparing something extraordinary. One night, Pharaoh, the ruler of all Egypt, had 2 troubling dreams. In the first dream, he saw 7 fat, healthy cows coming out of the Nile River to graze. But then 7 thin, ugly cows came out and ate the fat cows. In the second dream, he saw 7 full golden heads of grain growing on one stalk. Then 7 thin, scorched heads appeared and swallowed up the good ones. Pharaoh woke up very disturbed. He called all his wise men, magicians, and advisers. But none of them could explain the dreams. Then the cupbearer suddenly remembered something. He said to Pharaoh, "Today I remember my faults. When I was in prison, there was a young Hebrew man there. He interpreted my dream and the baker's dream, and both came true exactly as he said." Pharaoh immediately sent for Joseph. Joseph was taken out of prison, given clean clothes, and brought before Pharaoh. Pharaoh said, "I have heard that you can interpret dreams." Joseph replied humbly, "I cannot, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he seeks." Then Pharaoh told Joseph about his 2 dreams. the cows and the heads of grain. Joseph listened carefully, then said, "Both dreams mean the same thing. God is showing Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 fat cows and the 7 good heads of grain represent 7 years of abundance. The 7 thin cows and the 7 scorched heads of grain represent 7 years of famine that will follow. The famine will be so severe that people will forget the years of plenty." Joseph paused, then added wisely, "God sent you these dreams twice because the matter is certain, and it will soon happen. Pharaoh should choose a wise and discerning man to oversee the land. During the 7 good years, let him store grain in cities across Egypt. That way, when the famine comes, the people will have enough to eat." Pharaoh was amazed. He looked at his advisers and said, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" And so the impossible happened. Joseph the prisoner became the 2nd most powerful man in Egypt. Pharaoh placed his own royal ring on Joseph's hand, gave him fine clothes and a gold chain, and made him ride in a chariot of honor. Everywhere Joseph went, people bowed before him, saying, "Make way for Zaphenath-Paneah," the Egyptian name Pharaoh gave him. Just as God had revealed, 7 years of abundance came first. Under Joseph's leadership, Egypt grew more prosperous than ever. Fields produced huge harvests, and Joseph organized the storage of grain in massive barns across the land. He worked tirelessly, always thanking God for his guidance. And then the 7 years of plenty ended, and the famine began. The famine spread not only in Egypt, but across many nations. People came from everywhere to buy food from Egypt, because Joseph had prepared wisely. Even though Joseph had once been a slave and a prisoner, now he was the one saving lives through the wisdom that God had given him. Can you imagine how Joseph must have felt? He had been betrayed, forgotten, and imprisoned. Yet every step of the way, God had a purpose. Joseph realized that even the hardest moments were part of a bigger plan. If he hadn't been sold, he would never have gone to Egypt. If he hadn't gone to prison, he would never have met the cupbearer. And if the cupbearer hadn't told Pharaoh about him, Joseph would never have become a leader and helped save so many people from hunger. God's plan is always perfect, even when we can't see it right away. Children, Joseph's story teaches us something very important. God never forgets his promises, even when life feels unfair, when people disappoint us, or when we face difficult days. We can trust that God is still working behind the scenes. He can take what others meant for harm and turn it into something good. Joseph's faith and patience show us that no matter where we are, in a palace or in a prison, God is with us. Joseph's gift came from God, the ability to understand dreams. But more important than his talent was his faith. He used his gift to serve others and to honor God. When we use the gifts God gives us, whether it's kindness, creativity, or wisdom, we also help fulfill his plan in the world. Never forget, you were created for a special purpose. Even in the darkest times, God is preparing something beautiful. Patience and faith can turn pain into promise. And just like Joseph, we must forgive, trust, and keep believing. And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God. Romans 8:28. So, kids, when life feels unfair, or when things don't go the way you hoped, remember the story of Joseph. Keep believing, keep trusting, and keep doing what's right. God's plan for your life is full of hope, love, and purpose. And at the perfect time, it will come true. Thank you for watching Bible for Kids. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, so you don't miss the next episode of our journey through the Old Testament. Until next time, Keep your heart full of faith.